Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at a few new things. We have the new Hourglass palettes. I purchased 4 of them, as well as all 4 of the new Tom Ford lip gloss shades. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start off with the Hourglass palettes, and these are the Curator eyeshadow palettes. Now, last time Hourglass came out with some new eyeshadows, they were in similar packaging. So these are the new quads. And before, you can purchase this packaging, and then they have singles that you basically pick and choose in your palettes. And the issue is that each single was pretty expensive for what you get, and these are still not a magnetic product. It's actually kind of hard to get this in and out. But there were a ton of colors. Honestly, I really love the eyeshadows. The formula was great. The packaging, not so great. You've got a lot of wasted space. You've got, kind of the tin up here. It wasn't a great launch. Now, I love the formula. I personally love these eyeshadows from before. They have updated the formulas, but I have to say the formulas for the mattes in particular still feel very similar. They're very silky and smooth and powdery. And so the new palettes, they are not refillable. However, I do believe that these are magnetic pans. So there's probably some sort of magnet in here down below, because when I put it on another product that is magnetic, it will stick on the bottom half. So pretty sure we've got magnetic pans in here, but unfortunately there are no holes to remove them. We have typical lightweight tin packaging here with a mirror, and there is a little plastic layer to pull off on that. So I purchased 4 of the quads. This particular one is all matte shades. This is called Minimalist. I'm having a little bit of a hard time not having the light reflection make it a little blurry. So hopefully that's coming out clearly. But we have 4 matte shades in this palette, and they don't have names. It just says like matte 1, matte 2, and so forth. And I went through my previous Hourglass shades, and I don't have any shades that are duplicates of these. There are some, you've got some similar shades and so forth, but no duplicates. Now, one of the things I want to mention about these, take a look at how pigmented they are when you use a finger swatch. When you go in with a brush, and we'll take the deepest shade here to kind of show you. When you go in with a brush, you can see it's much lighter and buildable. I mean, you can see how easily that will build, but with the brush, it still builds very softly and slowly. So if you want this pigment, but you want to make it more, very easy to blend and so forth, it is easy to blend with a finger as well. But if you apply it with your finger and then use a brush to kind of brush that out, you'll get more pigmentation, but with that really soft blended look. So just something to note there. So this palette here is Minimalist. We have 4 matte shades. We have kind of a warm ivory. There is a soft neutral brown, a medium tone neutral brown, and a cooler tone deep brown. And this palette, right away, I thought of the Chanel Clair Obscure. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that as a comparison after we go through everything. The next palette I picked up is Realist. So this has a matte shade here. This one is described as a satin, so shimmer, and a metallic. And I have to say, for the most part, your shimmers, satins, and metallics are not strongly different from each other. So our first shade here is going to be kind of a matte. It's a soft peach. And then again, this next one is described as a satin, but it's a very, very soft satin. It's almost matte. And you can see this is going to be more of a medium tone peach. It's a warm peach. And then our shimmer shade here, this is going to be a bit more of a vibrant peach. So we've got a little bit more pink in there. And then our metallic here is our deepest shade. And this is going to be a nice warm reddish brown. And it's a medium, it's on the lighter end of deep, but it's still technically like a deeper medium shade in depth of color. So this palette here is Realist. It's a really nice set of everyday soft, peachy, warm shades. Then we have Expressionist. And these 4 shades are all metallics. And let's take a look at these. This one here is my favorite shade out of all 4 of the palettes I picked up. You can see we have a little bit more of a soft pink champagne. It still has a warm hue to it, but it is going to be cooler compared to other shades that we have here from Hourglass. The next shade here is going to be more of a soft peach metallic, and you can see that this will actually go really nicely with the Realist palette as well. And then we have a deep metallic here. This is going to be a cool tone brown, but there's a little tiny bit of eggplant mixed in there. Not enough for it to look purple, but if you look closely, when you blend that out, you will see a little bit of an eggplant shade. And then our last shade here is a medium tone warm brown. There's a tiny bit of olive in there, but it's more of that brownish olive, not a green olive. So this one here is Expressionist. I really like this one, more so though for mixing with the other palettes. I think it's a really pretty palette overall. And again, this first shade here is my favorite out of all of the shades that I have here. Then this one is Modernist, and this one is our more purpley palette. I'm gonna put this one right here next to Expressionist because we are running out of space. But we start off with a soft matte champagne ivory, and there's a little bit more pink in it than the others. It's more of the matte version of this shade in Expressionist. It's slightly warmer though. And then we have a metallic shade, and this is the purple shade. Now I have to say though, mine's a little bit firmer. It's not quite as soft in texture. It's not hard pan, but it's just a more dense, firmer product overall compared to all of my other shadows from these quads. You can see it's more of a warm, dusty plum. Honestly, it's just not a super pigmented shade on the eyes. So I was a little disappointed by that shade. Next shade here, this is going to be a matte. And this is going to be, again, it looks a little bit cooler in the pan. It's actually more of a soft, dusty rose matte. Whereas in the pan, it looks like it might be slightly cooler than it is. And then our last shade here is going to be a deep cocoa matte. And again, we've got just a little bit of a rosy mauve hue to it. But again, it's just really going to look more like a slightly cooler tone espresso brown. All right, so one more time, let's look at these. This first palette here, this is going to be the Minimalist. Again, these aren't going to be all matte shades. This last one here is with the brush application. Then we have Realist, which are going to be soft, peachy, everyday shades. And this one here is called Expressionist. This one's going to be all metallics. And we have some really pretty warmer shades, and this one is the coolest. This one has some cool tones to it as well. And then our coolest tone palette here is Modernist, which looks like we've got some more mauvey, rosy, amethyst kind of tones. But unfortunately, this shade on the eyes, we'll take a look at that right now, but on the eyes, it just doesn't show up as much as I would prefer. So let's take a look at the eye swatches and the demos. So the Hourglass Curator eyeshadow palettes, they just launched at Hourglass, Sephora, Ulta, and so forth. But they actually launched at Bloomingdale's, kind of early. So I ordered mine from Bloomingdale's, and at that time, the new Hourglass Unlocked Mascara in brown wasn't available. So I don't have the mascara, but there is a new brown mascara, which I would like to try at some point. Each palette retails for $68 US. There are 6 different palettes, so I purchased 4 of the 6. The other 2, we have Idealist, which is described as a rose palette. And then we have Futurist, which is described as a warm tone palette with a mix of finishes. They both look really beautiful as well. Now, out of the ones that I purchased, We started off here with Minimalist, which is their all matte palette. This is a great set of neutrals. We've got some really pretty tones. Now, pretty much all of the Hourglass shades here do run a little bit warm, but they are neutral, leaning warm. And that's true in general for Hourglass. Hourglass doesn't have very many cool tone shades in general. You know, some of their blushes, the brighter blushes and so forth, can be cooler in tone, but for the most part, their finishing powders, highlighters, and everything skew warm. And that's true with these eyeshadows as well. Now, as I mentioned, each palette retails for $68 US. We have a 1-year shelf life, and these are made in France, and we have 1 gram of product in each pan, so 4 grams total. The Minimalist quad is described as less is everything, universal matte shades for ultra wearable definition. And they describe them as neutral beige, a muted taupe beige, a charcoal brown, and a deep brown. The Realist quad is described as true dimension. It's polished neutrals in mixed finishes to level up any look. We have a matte neutral peach, a satin dusty rose, a shimmer that is bronzed rose with gold pearls, and a metallic bronze. And as I mentioned, I feel like this palette itself is really much more of soft peaches. I wouldn't really call these roses. They are a bit too warm toned for a rose. There's a little bit too much of that peachy hue to it. So I think it's really more of a nice, great, everyday, soft, peachy, neutral palette. And the Realist quad is identified as their neutral quad in this collection. And then we move on to Expressionist, which is their palette with all 4 metallics. And I apologize if you're hearing construction noise. And I apologize if you are hearing construction noise. My neighborhood is full of construction right now, and it's just never ending. So Expressionist, it says shine on. Washes of wearable metallics make an eye-catching statement. They are describing them as a pink opal, and that's a shade that I said is my favorite out of all of these palettes. It's more of a soft, warmish pink champagne. And then we have a warm medium peach, a taupe brown, and a true gold brown. And personally, this taupe brown, I don't really consider it taupe brown. It's more of a rich cocoa, and we've got a little bit of like a purpley hue to it, but I wouldn't consider it a taupe. And then the true gold bronze, I think that's pretty accurate because we do have kind of that bronzy olive kind of hue to it. Modernist is their cool tone quad, and it's described as being effortlessly cool. It's sophisticated plum shades impart depth for a modern smoky eye. We have a soft creamy beige, a plum taupe, a cool taupe, and a black plum. And again, my only issue here is this metallic, what they're calling a plum taupe. I feel like the color description is decent for that. It is kind of a plum taupe, but it just doesn't really show up on the eye as much because the formula itself is more dense. So this is one that you would definitely need to use a fingertip application for. And even then, it's just a little bit softer than the other metallics. So this is a metallic shade, but we don't have as much sheen as the other metallics in the other palettes. And it's more subtle, and just the color tones itself are more subdued overall. The matte shade that they're describing as a cool taupe, it's more of a soft rosy brown. I wouldn't, again, call it much of a cool taupe just because taupe is going to be slightly cooler than this. It's a little bit warmer. And yeah, overall though, I think all of these palettes are gorgeous and I'm really happy with them. Let's talk a little bit more about what Hourglass is saying about these palettes. Hourglass describes these as velvety formulas in 4 different finishes that offer buildable, easy to layer shades to create effortless, multi-dimensional looks for any mood or occasion. These highly pigmented shadows are formulated with talc-free, finely milled powders for a smooth texture, seamless application, and exceptional blendability. Highly versatile and buildable from subtle to high pigment payoff, these shadows offer comfortable, non-drying, all-day wear. And these palettes are named after iconic art movements. And I have to say, I really love these new Hourglass palettes. The packaging on these, you know, it's okay. With every eyeshadow, you know, there are going to be pros and cons. So I think the packaging is fine. I think it's better than the previous packaging because we have less wasted space in there. But I do wish that the shades were removable. I'm happy to see that they are using magnetic pans in there, but unfortunately it's risky to kind of dig those out to put them in another palette. So I wish they made that a little bit more usable for everyone. As I was saying, I really love the actual formula of these eyeshadows because it's velvety, silky, smooth. It's, you know, such a finely milled powder that it almost feels creamy, but it's not like a moist product at all. It's not a cream to powder. It's just such a silky, finely milled eyeshadow formula. And I in particular love their mattes in this because they're so easy to blend out. And after doing all of these eye swatches, they still didn't irritate my eyes. These were so much more gentle on my eyes than eyeshadows from many other brands. So I'm incredibly happy with the formula for these. The metallics, you know, some of them are a bit more of a stronger metallic, whereas others are more subtle. I feel like their satins are really more of a matte. There's a tiny bit of a satin finish in there, but I do feel like these shadows overall are going to be on the more subtle side from how we see the terms satin, metallic, and so forth from other brands. So just note that these are in general more subtle and, you know, it's got that soft sophistication. What I love about these though is their blendability. So not only can you apply these softly with a brush and get a very soft layer that's easily buildable, but I really like actually applying these with a fingertip and then going to blend it out with a brush, and they blend so smoothly, so easily. You can mix and blend colors beautifully that way. Whereas a lot of times if you do that with other eyeshadows, you know, and you start applying it with a finger and then you go to blend it in with a brush, it might not smooth out quite as nicely, as evenly, as, you know, diffused as you'd like. Hourglass has nailed that. I mean, the formula on these I absolutely love. And I have to say, the price tag on these, you know, some people will probably be a little outraged by the price, $68 US for a small quad. However, if you take a look at like a Chanel or a Dior palette, or I mean, however, if you take a look at like a Chanel or a Dior palette, we actually have less product in those palettes and they are comparable in price, yet I feel like the formula on these is better. So I actually, you know, we're going to swatch Clair Obscur from Chanel in just a moment, but I would choose this palette over my Chanel Clair Obscur. So I'm just so enthused by these particular formulas. So I think they're really great. Again, packaging I think is okay. I kind of would have preferred not to have the slanted front just to make things a little bit more easy for me to store in, you know, in my drawers. But it's not really an issue. But you can see, you know, it's just, you kind of wasted space then because of this bump out. So I would have preferred a flat palette myself. But I do like the fact that we've got, you know, a magnetic closure here, and, you know, it's nice. It's lightweight. We've got a nice mirror in here, easy to use. So let's go ahead and take a look at some comparisons. And we're starting off with the Chanel Clair Obscur. And this is actually my second of these palettes. I have actually gone through one of these in the past because this is such a great matte neutral palette. So let me just hold those up side by side. So we've got Clair Obscur from Chanel versus Minimalist from Hourglass. And you can see they are similar. They're not going to be the same color stories, but they're very close. So let's swatch these side by side. And we're starting off with this shade here, which I think actually will most closely match this one. So we'll put those together. You can see this is going to be lighter and it's a little bit warmer here than the Hourglass. This Hourglass shade's a little bit cooler. Our next shade here is going to be more of a soft taupe. And this is my favorite shade from Clair Obscur. You can see it's going to be cooler in tone than the Hourglass. It's a really beautiful shade. We have an ivory, and let's pair that up here. And you can see this is going to be warmer. It's also going to be a little bit more, there's a little bit more peach in it and more of that like nude brownish peach hue to it. And then we have a deep shade here, which is going to be cooler in tone. There's a bit more gray in here. So this is Clair Obscur from Chanel, fantastic quad, but honestly, I would choose the Hourglass over the Chanel at this point. I think the formula is better. The colors are comparable. I still, you know, I love this like cooler tone taupey shade from the Chanel, but even with that shade being so great, I'd still choose the Hourglass just because I think the formula is that much better. This here from Chanel is the Tweed Bronze Rose. So this was a limited edition before. The formula on these is incredibly silky. I'm just going to go ahead and put this one here. I love the formula on this, and I feel like it's silkier than their usual formula. And you can see that we've got some more soft shimmery metallics and so forth. This one, it doesn't quite match up with any one palette, but it kind of picks and chooses shades from different Hourglass palettes. So, you know, you can kind of get some of the similar looks there. Now, another one I want to take a look at is Tissé Essentiel, which is another favorite of mine from Chanel for neutrals. And I'm running out of space here, so I'm going to put this vertically at the top. And this one has this, we start off kind of with this like plummy taupe, you know, just, and then we have like a soft ivory. Then we have more of this warmer, soft beigey nude and a soft charcoal. This is a great option as well. It's a cooler tone option to Clair Obscur. It's also going to be a little bit lighter, but it's one of my favorites, one of my go-tos. Again, this is one that I have replaced over the years as well. So this is my second, possibly third of these quads since they originally came out, like when I was much younger. And then I wanted to take a look at the YSL in Store Dolls. So this is number 100. We're gonna have to move this one over here. We'll put this on my hand here. And I also want to take a look at Captivating Dunes from YSL. So you can see these are gonna be more shimmery. They're more sparkly. It's a looser formula than the Hourglass. It's very velvety. They're smooth. Again, we have very similar tones, but this is definitely gonna be a more shimmery product. And since it is a looser formula, you can get more like glittery fallout than you do with the Hourglass, where their metallics are a little bit more, they're more finely milled and they just stay a little bit more cohesive, you know, in terms of formula. And this is YSL Captivating Dunes. This is number 720, which is essentially a cooler tone version of 100 Store Dolls. So we'll put those together up here, and I just think it's a really great palette. But you can see overall this palette is going to be cooler in tone than all of the Hourglass. So just a quick review of the shades that we have here. This is Chanel Tissé Essentiel. This is Minimalist from Hourglass, Realist, Expressionist, Modernist. Then we have Chanel Clair Obscur. This is going to be Rosé Brun. Then we have YSL 100 Store Dolls, YSL 720 Captivating Dunes. So I hope this has been helpful. And let's go ahead and we're going to move on to the Tom Ford lip glosses. And then Tom Ford released 4 new shades of lip gloss. I love the Tom Ford lip glosses. They don't release new shades that frequently, so I had to pick these up and I'm super happy with them. So these are the Gloss Luxe, and same packaging as always. We have kind of, you know, switching between actually seeing the color versus an opaque shade, and these are heavy duty, so they're plastic but they're like weighted. So we do have a nice doe foot applicator here, and you can see it is angled for precision. This first shade here is N3 West Coast. So this is the major color on my lips right now, and I do have a little bit of the next color, which is a shimmery shade, dabbed on here as well. So you can see this one here, it is going to be these are all have a high gloss, high shine finish. This one doesn't really have any shimmer. There's maybe perhaps like a tiny bit, but no actual like glitter particles. And this is going to be like a rosy brown. And then the next shade, which is N4 East Coast, this is a shimmery shade. So again, I dabbed some of this on the center of my lips. And you can see that this is going to be a soft beigey rose gold. And we do have shimmer in here. The shimmer is going to be more of a pink multicolor shimmer. Then our next shade, I was happy to see this. We have number 3, Casablanca, which, you know, iconic Dior shade for their lipsticks. This is going to be a nice rosy shade, and it is a slightly cool toned rose. And I think it is gorgeous. This one also does not have shimmer, just like N3. And then we have 23 All Access. You can see we do have a tiny bit of shimmer in here, but again, no like big glitter particles or anything. And this one, I have to say, I'm a little disappointed in this shade because it's more sheer than I was expecting. And I thought it's going to be a little bit more corally. It's definitely more of a soft peach. Think of a glazed peach. So let's take a look at these on the lips. The Tom Ford lip glosses retail for $62 US. We have 0.19 fluid ounces, which is 5.5 milliliters. And these are made in Canada. The Tom Ford glosses do have a fragrance. It's kind of a fruity vanilla kind of fragrance. Think of your standard vanilla, but just a little bit of a fruity note mixed into it. And these are going to all have a very high shine finish. They are going to be comfortable on the lips. They're a thicker gloss, and they're not sticky. They just feel very like Luxe, like liquid vinyl on the lips. So I think they are a fantastic formula. They are one of my favorites, and I love these new shades. So as I mentioned, the West Coast shade does not really have any shimmer to it, whereas East Coast is going to be a high shimmer finish. So that's definitely going to be a sparkly one. Both Casablanca and All Access have a tiny bit of shimmer, but I don't really see the shimmer on the lips at all. I actually didn't see that Casablanca had shimmer until I looked really closely at the tube. You can see a little bit of it when the light hits it a certain way. So these are definitely not, aside from East Coast, they're not really going to be a glittery, sparkly shade for the most part. And I really love all of these shades. The West Coast is a beautiful brown, like a medium tone brown with like it's like a mauvey brown. You know, we've got a little purple in there and a little bit of rose. The East Coast is a beautiful kind of like it's a champagne with a touch of rose gold. I hesitate to really say the rose gold because a lot of times rose gold is much more intense than what we have here. And this is definitely more champagne with just a touch of that. Casablanca, again, a beautiful medium cool tone rose. All Access is a very light, soft, sheer peach. And I love the shades. I love all 4 of them, but I do wish that All Access was just slightly more pigmented than it is. Let's take a look at a few comparisons. So we're going to take a look first at the shades that came out for holiday from Tom Ford. So this one here is 18 Pinnacle, and this is going to be a shimmery pink, but you can see it is going to be a warmer tone shade there for sure. And it is actually kind of more of a rosier version of West Coast, plus it has some sparkle. Celestial, this is going to be more of an ivory shimmery shade here. This is essentially a topper, whereas East Coast has enough color to it that you can wear it on its own, and it kind of just gives you this really kind of like a more subdued lip look, but it's pigmented enough to give you a little bit of color. And then we have Peak Flush, which is more of a peachy brownish shade. Put that here by All Access. You can see this is going to be a warm, more orangey brown kind of shade. Really beautiful shade. Think more of like a muted pumpkin. We have some classic shades from Tom Ford as well. This one is Sunrise Pink. Let's go ahead. We'll put this one here. You can see this is going to be a soft, warm tone pink. And our new Casablanca is significantly cooler in tone. Barehast. This is one of my favorite shades, and you can see we do have a metallic glint here. This is going to be a soft, more of a neutral rose. It's not as cool as Casablanca, but it's definitely cooler than the other ones. It's more sheer, and we have some golden shimmer in there. You can see how this was stored. You can see the gold shimmer here kind of settled a little bit on the sides. One of my all-time favorite shades from Tom Ford. This is number 4, Exquise, and yeah, this is a favorite. And this is a really beautiful, soft berry rose. And it's stunning. We have In the Buff, which again is going to be a champagne-y, shimmery kind of shade. Let's put this one at the top. You can see this is going to be very sheer, but it's going to be warmer than the Celestial shade. This is essentially a soft peachy topper. It doesn't have enough pigment to really see too much on its own. This one here is Honeyed Coral. And this is a really beautiful shade. We'll just put this one here now. And you can see this is a soft, cool tone rose. It is going to be a lighter pink, and this one is shimmery. And this is one of my favorites. The name doesn't make much sense because there's no coral. This is really going to be cool toned pink shade. Now, my all-time favorite shade from Tom Ford, this one's really old. I just haven't been able to get rid of it because I keep hoping that they will bring back a new one. So I don't use it anymore, but it is stunning. This is called Smoked Glass, and you can see it is a beautiful plum berry shade, and it's my favorite. It's been discontinued probably close to 5 years now, but I'm hanging on to it in case they release a new one. Love Lust. This is another favorite from Tom Ford. I think this one was recently discontinued. This is going to be a soft baby pink. It's cool toned. There's a tiny bit of lilac in this shade. And that's it for my Tom Ford glosses. But I wanted to take a look at the 3 classic Chanel shades these are the ones that they usually have in the holiday kits. So this one here is 712. And I wanted to see how this one compares. We'll put this here. This again is going to be more of a toppery shade, and it's shimmery, but the color is going to be a little bit more beige. It's closest to this one up here, which was In the Buff. So this one here, which is 712, is closest to In the Buff from Tom Ford, but it is going to be a little more shimmery. Then we have 722. This is one of my favorites. I've gone through tubes of this one over the years. Let's go ahead. We'll put this one here. And between the formulas, the Chanel and the Tom Ford, the Chanel is probably just as thick on the lips, but it's slightly stickier than the Tom Ford. The gloss, the shiny finish isn't quite as intense. So this is one of my favorites. You can see it doesn't quite match any of the new shades there. And then 119, which Bourgeoisie, this is another favorite. This is my favorite neutral rose gloss shade. And you can see it's more muted. It's not as cool tone. This is definitely more of a neutral shade, and it's got some shimmer as well. So beautiful shades. I love both of these formulas, and I'm just super happy with the new Tom Ford ones. For me, these glosses are worth the cost. I know they are pretty expensive for a lip gloss, but they are some of the best in my opinion. I absolutely love them. And so let's just do a quick summary of what we talked about today. All right, so today we took a look at the new Hourglass Curator eyeshadow palettes, and I love these. This one here is actually my favorite, the All Matte Minimalist. I think it is stunning. The way it blends out is beautiful. It's incredibly buildable. These formulas are not irritating to my eyes at all. And I absolutely love them. I think it's a very sophisticated look. And, you know, if you hate spending a lot of time blending or you're not great at it, you know, these formulas make it so easy. So I'm super happy with those. In order of my preference, it would probably be the Minimalist, then Expressionist, which is going to be the metallic. And I love this one particularly for this pink shade here in the corner, followed by the Realist and then the Modernist. The Modernist for me, I placed last, and I actually thought this was going to be my favorite, but this particular purple shade, it just doesn't show up enough for me to make this as much of a favorite. And our other shades here are pretty similar to ones that we have in the other palettes. So this palette on its own, I just feel like is only okay. So that was my only one that I didn't love. Honestly, I still really like it, but the others, like, I absolutely love them. So the new formula, super excited about them. I'm sure you can tell, it's probably pretty obvious, but I love how easy these are to use and how gentle they are. Another love are the new Tom Ford glosses. I love these, love the formula, and I always have, but the new shades I think really kind of fill in some gaps for me in particular. I can't pick a favorite from these. I would have to say that East Coast, West Coast, and Casablanca are my top three. All Access is the one I could live without just because that one's more sheer than I would like. I actually really love the color, this peachy shade. I just wish it was slightly more, either a little bit more pigmented or perhaps more shimmery, just something to make it a little bit more unique and to show up a little bit more on my lips. So it's a gorgeous shade, but it just needs a little something more. So West Coast, East Coast, and Casablanca are definitely my favorites, but amongst them, I can't choose. I haven't figured it out. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know if you've tried any of these and what your thoughts are on them. And thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to share more things with you guys next time. I did actually change my mind. I ordered a couple of the new Chanel lips. So we'll have those coming soon. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you have a wonderful day.